This expired in 2013. That's why it's sanitizer expired in 2013. Expired in 2013. How's that?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Gottschall. I'm the Lower Paxton Township Manager. And in typical fashion, I'm going to give a brief overview of tonight's agenda before we begin, particularly for the benefit of those who may be watching at home this evening. Tonight, as we begin, the board will receive a briefing from staff on the township's ongoing response to the COVID-19 outbreak. Under new business, the board will take action on bids for the Friendship Center HVAC rooftop unit replacement project. Next, the board will consider Resolution 20-06, confirming with the Liquor Control Board the township's desire to be exempt from the provisions of the Liquor Code with regard to noise enforcement. After this, the board will consider action on Resolution 20-10, which assigns certain equipment purchased through the Fire Equipment Capital Fund in preparation of disposition in accordance with the capital replacement plan. Lastly, under new business, before taking action on improvement guarantees and the payment of township and authority bills, the board will take up consideration of a final land development plan for Columbia Cottages at Blue Ridge Village. And at this point, all the members of the board are seated and prepared to begin business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. We'll call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. I would like to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Supervisor Judd. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let us move to approval of minutes from the meeting of January 14th, 2020 and January 21st, 2020. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the minutes of January the 14th, 2020, the workshop, and on January the 21st, 2020 as a regular business meeting minutes as prepared and circulated.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're going to proceed to public comment. Before we do, I would first like to announce the Board of Supervisors met in executive session prior to this meeting to receive information from township staff, and will be doing so again following this meeting. Public comment is for any item that is not on the agenda tonight. Items that are on the agenda, public will be afforded the opportunity to comment as they are considered by the board. So is there any member of the public which wishes to address us on an item not on the agenda this evening? An item not on the agenda this evening. Okay, well, with that, we will proceed to chairman and board member comments. Chairman has no comments. Board members, do you have any comments this evening?
The meeting for the COG was canceled last night, so I have no report.
Okay. Manager's report. Mr. Gottschall.
Yes, sir. Members of the board, other than what the board will hear this evening, I have no other comments.
Okay. This would be the time when we are going to have an update on the township's plan, the township's preparedness for the coronavirus outbreak. Officer Palm is here and is going to brief us. If you would come to the podium, sir.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here this evening on behalf of Director Kashiba to reassure our citizens and our government officials that since January, we have been meeting regularly the township manager, the director of public safety, and myself as the emergency management coordinator in monitoring the COVID-19 now pandemic. We are prepared, if necessary, to open the Emergency Operations Center, but at this time we are partially open, and on a daily basis we continue to monitor the information relayed to us through county emergency management and, of course, from the state and the federal officials as well. At this time, in that reassurance, we have had no cases in Lower Paxton Township of anyone infected with the coronavirus, nor has there been any reports in Dauphin County. With that said, as we move forward, we still must be prepared, hence our title and our mission here in stepping through this. We have completed an organizational chart of unified command, which details everyone from the township and our public safety entities and how we are going to proceed through this. That plan can be upgraded as we go along if necessary, and so forth. And I would also like to just point out that I, as the emergency management coordinator, would recommend that we look at an emergency disaster declaration for our township. And I'll explain that because the wording of that just brings fear and anxiety about people. But that is not because we are in the middle of an emergent situation or a panic situation. It opens the door for us and when we declare the disaster declaration to purchase things outside the normal scope that we normally would, to get supplies and so forth without going out to the bidding process. It also speaks to the recovery process and the reimbursement process from the federal and state government down the road when we get to that point. And by declaring the disaster, it opens up the door for us to apply for reimbursement and so forth. So at this time, that is our recommendation, the Director of Public Safety, myself, and the Township Manager. But I just wanted to clarify that and reassure people that we are organized, we are looking at this daily, and we have the ability to upgrade and upscale what we're doing within constant communication with you, the Board of Supervisors, as well. So communication is the key, and as we continue, hopefully we can continue to provide updates to you and our community through our various media services.
Great.
Thank you. And I would like to point out that Director Koshiba is not here tonight. His mother passed away, and he is attending to her funeral services in the western part of the state. And even through a time of bereavement, Director Koshiba has been in contact with Officer Palm, with our township manager, with the board. So that's why he is not with us this evening. And of course, we extend our sympathies to the director and his family in a difficult time. Also not a difficult time to have a pandemic hit as well, but we appreciate his service and yours. Board members, do we have any questions for the officer?
No. Just thank you very much for bringing us up to date.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
And
Absolutely.
keeping us abreast of what's going on as we are very, very positive in our working, our planning on our organizational structure, and we continue to monitor what all the other organizations, both federal and state, are preparing and submitting to us so that we can be ahead of the game. So thank you very, very much.
Indeed, you're welcome.
And we have, like you mentioned, we have a nice organizational chart. Everybody has their assignment. Everybody knows who to report to. And you're satisfied as well as the public safety director with our communications with the county and then above them, the state.
Yes, I am, and I look forward to that continuing to improve on a daily basis as this pandemic continues to change hourly, daily. So I look for that to improve as we step through this. Communication is the key, so.
Well, it's important to understand that this is uncharted territory for everybody at every level. So these plans are in place and are changing on a daily or hourly basis as needed in a very rapidly evolving situation. So Thank you for your preparedness and for the entire emergency services operations, not only our police in here in the township, but our EMS and volunteer fire departments. Everybody is part of this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you, Ralph, for explaining everything about the declaration, if we should.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you,
Yep.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Board. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to old business, of which there is none. So we will go to new business, and we need to take action to award the Friendship Center HVAC Phase 2 contract. And Mr. Gottschall, this is for a number of new HVAC units, if you wish to explain.
Yes, sir. Members of the board, on January 23rd of this year, the township held bid openings for this HVAC project, which is deemed as Phase 2, because if you recall, the township had a number of months before this went through and replaced 2 other units on top of the Friendship Center, as they were also in need of repair at the time as well. So this phase will replace the remaining units, put the system completely back to 100% capacity and capability. The lowest responsible bidder was submitted by the bidder of Hostler Enterprise LLC in the amount of $414,950 for the lump sum bid. And at this time, if the board has any other questions or anything, Mr. Hines from HRG is here to help answer technical or other questions. And we are ready to roll.
Okay.
Jason, after the bid is awarded, what is the time frame?
There's an approximately 16-week-long lead time associated with these units, which is similar to the Phase 1 project that occurred last year. The plan is to have the work performed during maintenance week in August. So moving forward with the award tonight ideally would keep us on track pending any delays related to the current situation that we're all dealing with.
Okay.
And these units came in somewhat substantially over expectations, and we had some grant money from the county that was actually earmarked for another project, and wish to express our appreciation to the county and the commissioners for allowing us to flex that money into getting the HVAC units done, because that's obviously critical infrastructure for us.
But I just
No.
happened to get it to come up large enough.
Questions, comments, board members?
And refresh my memory, do we have a maintenance agreement on these new
On the new units, we should, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will.
We
units?
will.
Or
We will. We will. Yes.
We will.
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Yes, they need to last longer than the ones that are being replaced.
So there's a total of 14, right? Totally that would, I mean, not with this bid, but they'll be all replaced. And there was a total of 14 of them that needed to be replaced? Or was it 12, Jason?
I believe it's 11, actually.
11?
There's
Oh.
9 with this project, and there were 2 in the previous.
Okay, so 11, okay.
Okay. Any public questions or comments? Seeing none,
I
is there a
do- I-
motion?
I have a question.
Oh,
If
yes.
I may have it first. Jason, on the company, I've read that we've not had any experience with them. Do we have any references that we've checked to verify, or to at least commend and or indicate to us that their work has been satisfactory?
We haven't had any direct references. However, we've done a substantial amount of research and found that they're reputable. They've performed work of similar scope and size, and don't have any reservations about their ability to complete this project.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we've checked all our sources, that we're not going blindsided into this with this organization. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there now a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the HVAC RTU Phase 2 contract for Hostler Enterprise in the amount of $414,950 as recommended by staff.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we need to take action on Resolution 2020-06. This will confirm the township's desire to be exempt from provisions of the Liquor Code, Section 47 PS, subsections, et cetera, et cetera. Mr. Gottschall, if you would explain, we did pass an ordinance last week, and this is the next step.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes. If you recall, the board did pass the ordinance 20-02, which essentially removed the enforcement of noise regulations from the township zoning code into its own separate ordinance, which allows the police department to enforce it more regularly and more appropriately, really. And so now this resolution would allow the township to basically petition the LCB to allow us to continue that path and remove the enforcement of the provisions of the noise code per the liquor control code from their code and house it here in-house.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Well, so having it under zoning means if it's late at night and and there's a complaint, you don't send, you would have to get a code officer.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And as the board is aware, our code and zoning officials work Monday through Friday, normal business hours, so it becomes difficult at times to, balance schedules and enforce that provision.
We can just send the police.
Police
At
have
any time,
authority.
yes. Actually, the director and I had communications about how that will look, and the department is going to train and have certified all corporals and private first class individuals, which would essentially have at least one individual per scheduled shift that is available and able to go out and enforce the provision. So it will make for a much more effective enforcement of it.
And we do have the decimal finder.
Yes,
Okay.
and we're going to buy some more as well.
Okay.
Is there required training for that?
There is, yeah. The individual utilizing it, I think, must be certified in some way, and then the device must also continue to be certified and
Like calibrated?
calibrate it. Right.
Any other questions or comments? Any public questions or comments? Would you please come to the podium and give us your name and address?
My name is Aaron Demoto. I live at 2102 Sycamore Drive. I am here tonight to ask you not to pass this resolution. I don't think it's a good idea. I have a kind of a list of reasons why I'm going to go through, hopefully quickly for you guys. And I do have a couple of videos and a picture I'd like to show in a couple of minutes, or in a minute or two. So I guess I'm still wondering why this has been proposed and what the benefit is to the township. To me, it seems like there will be maybe a small benefit to a couple of liquor licensees that want to play music, but beyond that, I don't know kind of why we're going through all these changes to the rules to do this. I also would like to point out that the liquor code right now, as I read it, does allow liquor licensees to play music. They can play music inside, and they can also play music outside as long as it doesn't cross the property line. Now that music, the outdoor music, and I kind of want to be specific here, is amplified music or loudspeakers is what the liquor code says. So it doesn't restrict all noise from crossing the property line. So if a licensee wants to have an acoustic band outside, they can do that right now under the existing rules. You don't have to change any rules to let them do that. They can have an acoustic band outside, and that noise can cross the property line, and they won't be breaking any rules if they do that. That's kind of key to why I'm here, and some of the other things I'm going to say tonight, because I think that's fair and reasonable. People want to sit on a patio in the summer and listen to some music. That's fine. I think unamplified music in certain instances, and I'm talking about my specific situation, is generally okay. I think amplified music may be okay in certain areas, but I think I spoke to, is it Shelley? I think I spoke to you earlier and you said this applies to the entire township. Is that correct? Okay, so I don't think that that's specific enough, that that it's applicable or makes sense for every single bar or restaurant in the township. Specifically in my instance, I live on Sycamore Drive, which is across the street from Greystone Public House. They're on Colonial Road. Last summer, they opened their patio and started hosting outdoor bands or concerts, I would call them. They were very loud. They were 2 to 3 nights a week, every Thursday, every Saturday, and some Fridays. And I could hear the music pretty much all the time at my house. And if you could put the picture up, I can show you where I live to just give you an idea of how far away that is and how many other people. Okay, so the line is pointing to my house on Sycamore Drive, and the circles just kind of show you other houses that are within the same distance. So at my house, depending on the type of band that they're playing, I mean, sometimes it's a little quieter than others, but I can clearly hear the lyrics at my house, and it is pretty intrusive. It's very disruptive if I want to be outside when they're playing. I can also hear it inside my house, especially if the windows are open, but there were times when I shut the windows and I could still hear the music. It goes on till, last year they were going on till 11 p.m. My wife gets up for work at 5 a.m., so she's usually in bed by 9 or 10, so that doesn't really work for us. If you could go to the videos. I forgot to even ask if you can hear sound through these. If you can't hear the sound, it's not really going to be helpful.
It's touch and go sometimes, yeah. We can
Okay.
try.
Okay.
I suspect that didn't convey your point very well.
You're correct. So that video was taken from my back patio sometime in, I think it was June. There's 2 other videos there. I don't know if the sound will come through, but they're taken across the street. Well, that's not conveying exactly how it sounds.
Okay, it was worth a try, right? Thank you.
Anyway, so it's very loud. There are some houses actually directly to my left from where I'm taking this video. There are houses directly across the street from Greystone, so there's people much closer than I am. I do have for you tonight a petition that I had some neighbors sign that are also asking you to oppose this resolution. These people are from Sycamore Drive, Winthrop Drive, Avon Drive, and Colonial Road. I don't know who I should give that to. And I did also, I got an email from another neighbor, and she asked me to read it tonight. She's older and has asthma and decided that tonight was not a good night to go out. So
Not a good night to go out.
you'll indulge me, it's 2 lines or so. I'm so glad you left this note on my door. I had not heard about the request, but certainly do remember last summer while I was enjoying a peaceful afternoon on my deck admiring the John Goodwin tree, being assaulted by horrendous loud music that lasted into the evening. I had to go inside and close the windows and turn the TV up. I am 100% opposed to this change. If you go back to the picture, she lives at 2116 Sycamore Drive. So she lives in that house. I can give you this too.
Yes,
Like a copy.
so is Gary. Is there something about I'm looking at your picture, the aerial view. It strikes me that these properties are a fair distance from the Greystone Public House. And I'm wondering if there's something about the topography, because what I'm looking at from the aerial view is I don't see any, is that woods or is that open fields or?
It's mostly wooded.
It's mostly woods.
Yeah, there are a couple of small hills, so
Yeah.
depending on where you are, that was just to show distance. That may
Yeah.
not, everyone may not hear the sound the same. What I will say is that one of the things I was going to get to later is that from what I can tell, the way they built their patio and their stage, everything's facing the neighborhood, which is not helpful. And also the wind tends to blow west to east, which is my direction. So just the general design that they set up is not helpful to the situation. I don't know what they did for zoning requests and approvals, but they're basically pointing it at the neighborhood, which I think is making it worse. What I will also say is that I spoke to Nick Garrett a couple of times, who I guess he indicated that he had spoken to someone at Greystone, and I also spoke to Jason Viscount sometime in September, and he did say that he bought his own noise meter and he thinks he's following the township ordinance already, which is kind of why I'm here, because it's still extremely loud. The other thing, I'm trying to go through this quickly, I do not want to take up your entire night, but there's several reasons why.
Yeah,
I
if we
just
could sort of,
don't think this is
Yeah.
a good idea.
pick it up a little.
So Greystone is also located in the neighborhood commercial zoning district. Uses in that district, to quote the zoning ordinance, are to provide for lighter types of commercial uses that will be compatible with nearby homes. I don't think making this change and allowing them to play the music is going to be compatible with the nearby homes. I think if you leave the rules as they are, they can still have acoustic music outside. It just won't be as loud. I don't know how loud it will be. The other thing I did want to mention is that if this is the entire township, from what I counted on the Liquor Control Board site, there are 36 licensees that would be allowed to follow the new rules and play music if they want to. I don't know where they're all located. I do know some of them are Sheets and Wise, so they probably won't play music, but a lot of them are bars and restaurants, and this may kind of spread to other parts of the township. Another thing I wanted to mention is the current Liquor Control Board, I guess you're going to file a petition if you approve this, and it will go to Liquor Control Board. Their rules, to quote the Liquor Code, state that the board shall disapprove the petition for an exemption if the board finds that granting the petition shall have an adverse effect on the welfare, health, peace, and morals of the residents living in the vicinity of the identified area. I think that will have a negative effect on our welfare and our health and our peace. So I hope that you see that this isn't a good idea and we don't have to take it that far. Another issue I see is generally I don't have a problem with the current noise ordinance. It seems fine. However, I'm not sure it's designed for what you're going to apply it to, because as I see right now, as long as somebody's under the decibel limit, they can play music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is a lower limit at 9 p.m., but there's no cutoff time. There's no time for hours, so if someone wanted to play music for 12 hours straight, they could do that as long as they were under the decibel limit. And I think the noise ordinance is more designed as of right now for isolated incidents. Somebody's having a loud party one night, it gets late, someone calls the police, you shut it down. But in this instance, we live next door to someone who's going to be hosting events several days a week. So it's not like, if you imagine living next to a house where they had parties 3 nights a week, and as long as they're under the decibel limit, you have to sit there and accept it. I just don't think it is adequate to cover this situation. I think that is about it.
Okay. Now, you do understand that by us doing this, it gives us the ability to monitor this and take action essentially 24 hours a day as opposed to 40 hours a week when the zoning officer is here.
I understand that, but as I read the liquor code right now, the state police are responsible, and
They are.
right now they have responsibility for enforcing that.
Well, yes, they cover a very wide territory, however. Well, anyhow, just wanted to make sure you were aware of the fact that this actually provides for additional hours of enforcement.
I would disagree with that because I did speak with a state trooper last year when I finally figured out how the rules were supposed to operate. She's based in Harrisburg, and she did go out and talk to Greystone, I think, 2 times. They continued to play the music, but she at least went out there, and she did go out after hours. So I think the state police could handle it right now.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Another thing I did want to mention is that I believe also right now the liquor code and the township ordinance apply. So you don't have to petition the Liquor Control Board to remove their rules. Right now, as I read the liquor code, it would be the township ordinance and the liquor code, so you could call either.
Okay. Board members, any questions for the gentleman?
Is there an expectation that the decibel levels written in the township ordinance, that this wouldn't provide you with any protection?
I don't think so. That was what I was trying to convey. One of these videos is from late September, and I can email, I don't know if that would help if you could listen to it on something else, but one of the videos is from late September, and that was after Mr. Garrett spoke several times to the owners of Greystone. That was after I spoke to the owner of Greystone, and he told me that he was already allegedly following the noise ordinance, and it was still extremely loud. So I don't know if he really was following the noise ordinance or if he just thought he was, but he claimed he was, and I'm taking him at his word. And again, one of these videos that I was going to try to show you was taken after those conversations, and it was still very intrusive.
So you fear that with the limits in the township ordinance, that you're like, you know, the way it is not going to change, that your quality of life is going to be impacted.
Absolutely. I mean,
You don't know it for sure, but you talk to him and you assume that nothing's going to change and that you're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, for the reason I just mentioned, I mean, he said he was following the noise ordinance, you know,
Okay.
and then we heard it several times after that. So
Okay. Can we, Steve, I mean, if we wanted to in the future, can we adjust those?
You could change your ordinance. You can also go back to the enforcement by the LCB. You have those
Right.
options in
Well,
the future.
I imagine.
We can always make amendments or changes to ordinances.
Okay.
That's correct.
Ordinance.
And the
Always.
reason is because quality of life, to me, is one of the most important jobs, you know, for a supervisor. That's, you know, there's public safety and all that, but it all goes together. But quality of life and being able to enjoy your house is very important. The other people you signed a petition, what did you tell them? What was your approach? Or some of them you just left a note or something. What did you tell them to get them to sign? I wish they were here. We could talk to them.
yeah,
Okay.
there's 2 people that can follow me, I guess. But I basically said that the township has been asked to change the rules to allow liquor licensees to follow the township noise ordinance as opposed to the Liquor Control Board rules, and then just explain what they were. For example, Liquor Control Board is no amplified music crossing the property line. They could play acoustic and that'd be fine.
But should I assume that everybody on the list and here, this to them was an existing problem in their mind? They didn't have to be told about something that's going to come down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here tonight because I lived through it all last summer. This went on. I have their schedule here. It was every Thursday.
I know
every
you.
Saturday.
I'm trying to get a feel for how many people
I
are
didn't-
impacted, and are impacted not just because they were told it could get worse or something bad could happen. I want to know if they believe currently that they're having the same trouble that you
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Okay, but
Yeah.
that's good.
And I didn't.
Okay.
I only went to people that are basically within that circle that would have heard it. I didn't go to random people and try to scare them into signing it.
Okay. Any other board questions? Any additional public comment? No, you please come to the podium and give us your name and address. That way you can also be a TV star.
Michelle DeStefano, DESTEFANO, Tefano. And I'm at 4321 Winthrop Drive. And I wasn't planning on speaking, but since he couldn't play his video, I'll just relay, my family's experience. We live a lot closer. We live right here. And I have an 18-year-old son who doesn't get excited about too many things, and he's a musician himself, so he appreciates music, but he was pretty angry about the whole thing because, first of all, he can't hear his own music in his own bedroom because the music is so loud at our house, and he doesn't like the music they play, but that's that's another story. So, like I said, he doesn't get excited about too many things, so when I saw how upset he was by this, I knew it had to be pretty bothersome and pretty loud. So you couldn't really get an appreciation because we couldn't play the videos, but it is loud and it is often. And that isn't even trying to sit outside to enjoy our patio or our porches. That's inside the house with him in his bedroom with the door closed, so, and the windows closed. So I will just, second the problem of the noise. Now, I don't know what the decibel levels in your proposed plan are. I don't know what that would sound like. I don't have a comparison. But if it's louder, it's definitely going to be a problem. And if it's less restrictive, it's only going to get worse.
Can I just ask you, had you reported this to the township prior to the gentleman coming to you about the petition?
I had not reported it to the township. I did not hear it personally. I'm going by what my husband and son told me. I was working in Washington, D.C. last summer when they opened this patio. But, I enjoy sitting at restaurants on the patio listening to music, but I don't think the entire neighborhood should have to listen to that music. I'd rather sit on my patio and enjoy music of my choosing, which
So you
right now wouldn't be.
you personally have not heard it, just your husband and your son heard it?
Yeah, I was gone most of the summer. I may have heard it
Okay.
coming and going, but I wasn't sitting there living through it. I'm just, when it came up in the household, when he stopped by our house, my son, was quick to comment on how loud it was, so I just
Okay.
wanted to pass that on.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to comment? Sure.
Thank you. My name's Jennifer Muggio, Muggio. I live at 2113 Sycamore Drive. And I agree with everything Aaron and Michelle had said. And it's very intrusive. I've contacted the township myself about it. I've called Greystone probably 4 times last year. And I spoke with the manager that was working, and she assured me that she would go out to the patio and turn it down. Just little things that personally have affected myself and my family. Like on cooler nights, I used to be able to let our windows open, at bedtime, and my children have come, my daughter Natalie has come downstairs and said, "Mommy, I can hear the music." So that's a problem. We have to shut the windows. And I also used to enjoy reading books on my swing on the front porch. I do that no longer. When they, are entertaining. And also when I'm sitting in my living room, the wall actually vibrates. Like you can feel the bass. So like either, I just have to turn the music up, and that's also when I've actually called the restaurant. So I definitely agree with everything that they had said, but thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you the same question because we get voicemails and emails every week in our packet, and I don't remember seeing anything from anybody except for the gentleman that was here. So did you contact the police department about that?
This
Or
was
did-
like last year that I've called in,
Okay,
so
so
it
my-
wasn't recent.
Okay, but my question is, did you contact the police department about the noise, or did you actually call to the township and talk to somebody at the front desk? Or did you leave an email? Did you do an email, or did you do a voicemail to the Board of Supervisors?
I don't think it was to the board. I honestly, I don't recall. I called the restaurant and made several complaints.
Because
Yeah, I don't-
we here, we need to know, and that's through email or through a voicemail to the Board of Supervisors. And then that gets forwarded to us, and then we know what's happening, with the complaints that come in. So my question was it, right here to the township, to the front desk, or did you call the police department?
I don't think, I'm not a person to jump the gun and call the police over. I feel like I can have a conversation with an owner and hopefully, and like I said, she said that she was going to turn it down, and I felt like it happened, occasionally. But yeah, I don't recall calling you guys.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else wish to comment on the? Okay.
Just a quick question. Mr. Solicitor, the difference between the township being responsible to enforce sound levels versus the Liquor Control Board, what is the difference?
Well, the people who can enforce, right now, the state police enforce the rules of the Liquor Control Board.
Or maybe I should
Decibel-
rephrase
decibel
the
laws.
question. What's the difference in the enforcement in
They-
terms of,
I mean, the sound levels?
yes?
In the LCB regulations, they measure the sound at the property line of the property producing the sound, and that has to be at 0 decibels at the property line. In other words, like let's say it was Greystone, the sound would have to be at 0 at the property line for them to not be in violation. Under the township ordinance, it's more like first of all, it has to be at the receiving property line. And that level it varies in the ordinance, but I know one of them was 65 decibels.
So I would think that the Liquor Control Board would be more restrictive.
It is, for sure. Because it has to be 0 at the producing property's property line.
Which is, which would make it impossible really to have any outdoor music because you can't have it at 0 at your property line anywhere.
Probably not.
I can't imagine any place in the township where you could do that. Yes.
Mr. Stein, I think, just to be more specific, the LCB rule is 0 for amplified music. So if Greystone decided to have acoustic music on the patio, it would not have to be absolute 0.
I think that's right, but I just wanted to point out what the big differences were between the two.
Right, but I think that is a big difference, that they're not completely prohibited from having music on their patio. It just has to be unamplified.
Well,
Somebody with
but
a
if it's
guitar singing would
amplified,
be
it
fine.
still has to be 0 if it's amplified. Right.
Right, but
under
guy
our
sitting there with a
ordinance-
guitar-
under our ordinance just can't be more than 65 decibels at the receiving property line. That's the difference.
Okay.
Steve, I have a question. So if he's hearing this on a Saturday night, does he, with the way it is now, he would have to call the LCB? Is there a 1-800 number?
Well, he would have. I believe he has to call the state police,
The state
or the
police.
LCB, one of the two. So yeah, that's where he would, because the township police are not
Right.
able to
Right, where
enforce the
the
LCB
new one would
regulations.
allow the, okay.
Correct.
So my question was, so he would have to call the state police, and if they would show up, or if the LCB has a 1-800 number or whatever, that's who he would have to contact.
That's correct.
In order for them. Can I ask, did you ever call the LCB or call the state police and have them come out when you were hearing the loud music?
Yeah, so in the beginning of the summer, I didn't know what the rule was. I'm not sure anybody knew what the rule was, so I contacted Mr. Garrett a couple of times. When I did finally look into it, I did contact the state police, and they were pretty responsive. Like I said, the trooper did come out at least 2 times to talk to Greystone.
And was
Again.
this during the period that the music was being played?
Yes,
Okay.
they were at least kind enough to put their schedule online, so I could tell the trooper when to expect the music.
Okay, so he came out only because they were going to have a band that night, not because you had called and complained that you were hearing the music too loud. So he knew ahead of time what the schedule was.
Yeah, I mean, I did call at that night and say, that the music was loud, and I said,
Okay,
if you go out this night, you could probably see
okay,
it, so.
okay, thank you.
Okay. If there are no further questions, is there a motion on the resolution 2020-06?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2020-06, which confirms the township's desire to be exempt from provisions of the Liquor Code, Section 47 PS 4-493 1B.
Okay, the motion is to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it,
Okay,
with, no.
okay, moved and seconded. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
I'm opposing it.
Me too.
Okay, so I heard 3 ayes and 2 noes, so then the resolution would be approved. Why don't we do this by roll call so that we can
Okay.
have it? Shelley, if you would, please.
Mrs. Lindsay,
No.
Mr. Zumas,
No.
Mr. Judd,
Yes.
Mr. Chrisman,
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes. Okay, so it's approved 3-2.
And I just want to say, I think I made it clear earlier, that quality of life is important, and it's one of our most important jobs. This is a new ordinance, and it's, these changes will affect township-wide. And if these numbers aren't, these decibel numbers aren't able to ensure quality of life, or if establishments aren't doing the best they can to limit the impact on the residents around them, then I have no problem with changing those numbers.
The other thing, too, you mentioned something I thought was very important, was the placement of the stage and the fact that the music is going from west to east, basically aiming the music at your neighborhood. Have you talked to, or, and I would be willing to figure out who to reach out to talk to them if they can position, because as I recall, the area to the west is pretty vacant. So if they were to move the stage so that the music was heading to the west rather than to the east, that could potentially resolve your problem just by the placement of where they put their bands. Have you explored that with the manager, or owner, or whomever?
It may help. I mentioned several suggestions. The only thing that was offered to me was, would you like to hear it on a different night? It was not.
That's not.
You don't have to turn it down.
Yeah.
To play different kinds of music.
Mhm.
The only choice was, well, would you like to hear it Saturday or Friday?
Okay, well, we'll reach out to them and discuss
And
that
tell them
suggestion.
if we, if they can't try, if they can't mitigate, minimize, then, there's always a chance that we'll tighten the numbers up.
Well,
Well,
if there's a problem, you can now call the township police. So
And since we're all justifying our vote, I'll tell you why I voted for this. And for me, the main difference is between whether it's liquor control and the state having input on what's going to happen there. I would prefer to have local control, and so that's why I supported it. I want to be able to have more control here.
ditto. That was my motivation as well.
And
All right.
the reason I voted no is I agree with the fact that, we need to control, but we want to make sure that the control is adequate. If the DBs are off, and what's the sense? I would have liked to have seen maybe some experimentation, some DB measurements, a couple different trials to see how it all worked out, and then make a decision. So my position would have been to table it, do a little more investigation, get some more facts together, and then go. So that's the reason I said no.
I suspect we will get to that next. All right, in any event, we do need to move on to item C on the agenda. We need to take action on Resolution 2020-10, authorizing the disposition of equipment purchased through the Fire Equipment Capital Fund, which will hopefully be a little less controversial.
Yes, quite a bit, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, if you recall last week's meeting at the workshop, I addressed the board on what this resolution is. Essentially, it allows upon the purchase of a new piece of apparatus for a volunteer fire company, it will allow the volunteer fire company to take paper ownership, if you will, of the retiring vehicle, so that they may sell it and then quickly and expeditiously get the funds back over to the capital fund to put back into the rotation for the new piece of apparatus down the line.
Okay.
Well, they would have more contacts.
Correct. Yeah, they have more contacts, and this would just make it a quicker and more seamless process this way.
Okay. Any board questions? I know we've
No, we've had much
discussed this in
discussion about
workshop.
this
Any
item.
public question or comment? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2020-10, which authorizes the disposition of the equipment purchased through the Fire Equipment Capital Fund as recommended by our township manager.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. We now need to move to subdivision and land development. We need to take action on the final land development plan for Columbia Cottages and Blue Ridge Village. This is Plan 19-28. And Mrs. Zerby.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
The final land development plan for the Columbia Cottages proposes to construct a 60,495 square foot assisted living memory care facility for adults 55 plus. It's on Lot 1 of the Blue Ridge Village development. The development will include 3 internal courtyard spaces within the facility, parking lot, and sidewalk. 104 beds are proposed for the facility. The lot has a total area of 7.3 acres and is in the Residential Retirement Development Zoning District and will be served by public sewer and water. The plan was approved at the November 13th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting. The one detail you need to know about this plan tonight is the waiver request that's on your memo was not necessary to be included on the plan. The waiver was previously approved on the Blue Ridge Village Phase 1, and this parcel is within Phase 1. The waiver request and approval is clearly marked on the recorded Blue Ridge Phase 1 plan as well as on this plan. And Kevin Embers is here this evening if you have any questions for the applicant.
Okay, sir, if you would please come to the podium and give us your name and address, please.
Sure. Kevin Ember from Ritu Associates. Our office is based out of Lancaster. And also here with Ted Miller from Horse Construction, Horse Senior Care, who is our client and will be the future owner of the property.
Okay. Board members, do we have any questions?
I just have a question. If you're looking at the property, you have the Jersey Mike's in front, you have the apartments to the left. Approximately whereabouts is this going to be?
So this is, lot 1 is the southwest corner.
Okay, so that would,
I'm not exactly sure where the Jersey Mike's is, but
yeah, it's right along Lingelstown Road.
it's going to be left of Alexandra Lane, the new lane that has been cut up through the property, right along Lingelstown Road.
So Amanda, you have CVS on the right, and then you have the road, and then you have the Jersey Mike's.
It's in front of the apartments.
It's in front of the
Yes,
apartments.
so it's at
Okay,
the front end.
okay, so it'll be back a little bit then.
Yeah, Alexandria comes across from Gale on the other side.
Oh, okay, on the other side, gotcha, okay. Originally, they said 93 beds, so now we're up to 104. I was thinking when the plan first came, it was like 93.
I don't remember 93,
Okay.
but all the statistics work out for them to be able to
Okay,
do the
I just-
104.
yeah, okay.
Okay, other questions? Mr. Chrisman?
Certainly. Kevin, I apologize. I had difficulty hearing your last name, so I'm using your first name. Is that acceptable, or would you prefer me to use your last name?
Sure, that's fine, but it's Ember, E-M-B-E-R.
Thank you. I have to make a comment, first of all, to you and to your organization. This is the very first time that the applicant has actually taken the comments and has actually written them in printed form, which are normally the questions I ask. So I applaud that effort. So, which will make my questions very quick.
He's been here a few times. I think he has your,
Yes, the profile already established. My first question is, are you able to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, I believe so.
Excellent. Since you have responded to all of the items that are listed, I'm going to turn my question to Mrs. Zerby. Mrs. Zerby, he has responded to everything that I would normally ask with regard to the administrative comments, the general comments. And, yeah, our general comments. Are there any there that are not acceptable to you as staff?
No, they are all acceptable.
Then to you, I would compliment you that you in fact have met with staff. You have either met the requirements or you will meet the requirements in a timely fashion acceptable to the staff. Thank you for doing that. You just reduced this meeting by about 7 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank
Glad
you.
to do it.
I had one more question. When are you looking approximately at the completion of the facility?
I believe it's a year construction time frame, roughly, Ted?
Yeah, it's a 10-month construction, and we're anticipating a June, July start.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the final land development plan for Columbia Cottages, Blue Ridge Village Plan 2019-28, with 3 administrative comments. I'm sorry, 5 administrative comments, 3 general comments, including number 4, which has the 9 comments on a memo dated March the 13th from Jason Hines at HRG. And that all of those have either been met or will be met in a timely fashion acceptable to township staff.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Excellent
Thank
job.
you. Thank you for being patient.
Sure.
And that now takes us to improvement guarantees, development agreements, et cetera, et cetera. Anybody have any comments or questions on those? Hearing
Again,
none, is there?
my usual question. I did not see anything. Is there anything there unusual that I have missed in my review?
No, nothing unusual, no.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 8 improvement guarantees as presented and recommended by staff.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. That brings us to payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. Madam Treasurer.
Yes, I make a motion that we pay the bills of Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any additional announcements from the board or staff? Our next scheduled meeting is a business meeting on Tuesday, April 7th at 7 p.m. in this meeting room. However, the board could potentially meet. We have 5 Tuesdays this month. That creates a 3-week period of time. Given everything that is occurring these days, the board could potentially meet before April 7th. So I would advise those members of the public interested to keep an eye on Township website. If you haven't already, sign up for our various e-delivery methods as well as our Facebook page, and we will certainly keep you posted should we have any special meetings between now and April 7th. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.